Capital punishment is one of the most brutal and ancient forms of punishment, still practiced in some countries today. Let's start with one of the most discussed countries. First place is the United States of America. How exactly are death sentences carried out there? Let's find out. Capital punishment remains legal in 27 U.S. states, despite its abolition in many other countries. In the United States, the death penalty is applied as punishment for the most serious crimes. Let's take a look at the methods of execution used in America and the crimes that can result in a death sentence. Lethal injection. Lethal injection is the most common method of execution in the United States. It is used in most states where capital punishment remains legal. This method is considered more humane, as death is believed to occur quickly and without pain. However, there have been cases where the process was prolonged due to ineffective drugs. Despite this, lethal injection remains the primary method of execution. Electric chair. The electric chair has been used in the United States for many years, but is now less common. It remains a legal execution method in some states. In this method, the condemned person is strapped to a chair, and an electric current is passed through their body. This process typically results in death, but in some cases, multiple shocks are required. The electric chair is still permitted in several states. Gas chamber. The gas chamber is one of the methods of capital punishment that remains legal in some U.S. states, such as Arizona and Oklahoma. Although it is rarely used in certain cases, condemned prisoners may choose this method of execution. Before the procedure, all equipment is carefully checked. The prisoner is then led into the chamber, an airtight room made of metal and glass. Inside, there is a chair with straps securing the hands, legs, and chest to ensure complete immobility. Once all preparations are complete, the chamber door is sealed shut, and the process begins. Beneath the chair, there is a special container filled with sulfuric acid, while above it, a mechanism holds capsules containing cyanide. When the execution is initiated, the capsules are released into the acid, triggering a chemical reaction that produces hydrogen cyanide gas, which has a distinct almond-like odor. The gas gradually fills the chamber, mixing with the air. As the prisoner inhales the gas, dizziness and weakness may appear within seconds. Breathing becomes increasingly difficult and consciousness starts to fade. After some time, the person loses awareness and eventually stops responding. Death is usually confirmed by medical professionals within several minutes, although the exact time may vary. After the execution, the chamber remains sealed for a period to allow the gas to dissipate. Ventilation systems are then activated to neutralize any remaining toxic substances. Only after the chamber is fully cleared do specialists enter to examine the body. Although the gas chamber is now rarely used, it remains a legally sanctioned method of capital punishment in some U.S. states. The last 24 hours of a death row inmate in the U.S. are strictly regulated, filled with tension, fear, and the awareness of the inevitable. It is a final day marked by routine for prison staff, but for the condemned, it is the end of a long journey. For the victims' families, it may bring closure or reopen wounds. A day before execution, the inmate is transferred to a small holding cell near the execution chamber. Here, they are under constant surveillance to prevent any unforeseen incidents. Dressed in clean prison clothes, stripped of personal belongings, they await the end. Some remain silent, others express fear, and a few try to keep up a facade of normalcy. One of their last choices is the final meal. Some states impose a budget, typically between $20 and $40, while others, like Texas, have abolished the tradition. Requests vary. Some ask for elaborate meals, others for simple items like bread and water. A few refuse their last meal altogether. The condemned may spend their final hours meeting with family, a lawyer, or a chaplain. These meetings take place under strict supervision. A chaplain may offer a last prayer or blessing, and the inmate can write a final letter to be delivered later. Hours before execution, the inmate undergoes a final search and medical preparations. If lethal injection is used, an intravenous catheter is inserted. Prison staff remain professional, keeping emotions in check. About 30 minutes before execution, the inmate is taken to the execution chamber. If lethal injection is used, they are strapped to a gurney. Given the opportunity for last words, some express remorse, others say goodbye, and a few make political or defiant statements. Some choose silence. At the scheduled time, the warden gives the signal. The execution proceeds often by lethal injection, inducing unconsciousness, and eventually stopping vital functions. A doctor pronounces the time of death, If the body is unclaimed, it is buried in the prison cemetery, often in an unmarked grave. Witnesses, including journalists, victims' families, and lawyers, leave, while prison staff complete the necessary paperwork. For some inmates, the final hours are filled with terror. Others face them with calm acceptance. The execution process leaves a lasting impact, not only on the inmate, but also on prison staff who carry out the act. In the end, the last 24 hours of a death row inmate are more than a process. They are the closing chapter of a life, marked by raw human emotions: fear, regret, defiance, or peace. Time stops for one, but the world moves on. What crimes can lead to capital punishment? The death penalty is typically applied for murder, especially when committed with extreme cruelty or under aggravating circumstances. It can also be imposed for the murder of a police officer or other vulnerable individuals. Execution may be ordered for crimes committed for personal gain, such as robberies, as well as for espionage, treason, or involvement in terrorist activities. In some jurisdictions, large-scale drug trafficking can also result in a death sentence. Additionally, certain countries enforce capital punishment for crimes related to national security, including acts of sabotage, armed rebellion, or high-profile corruption cases. The legal and ethical debates surrounding the death penalty continue to evolve, with some nations upholding its use as a deterrent, while others advocate for its abolition. This overview provides a neutral description of the legal aspects and methods of capital punishment. Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, capital punishment is predominantly carried out by beheading with a sword. This method is often performed publicly and has deep historical and religious roots in the region. Execution by beheading is considered a fast and effective means of carrying out a death sentence, although the international community regularly criticizes the public nature of such executions. China. In China, the death penalty is used to punish serious crimes, but precise data on the number of executions and the methods employed are rarely published. The most common method is execution by firing squad, in which the condemned is shot by a group of marksmen, ensuring a swift result. In recent years, Chinese authorities have also begun to introduce lethal injection as a more humane alternative, although the firing squad remains the primary method of execution. Taiwan. In Taiwan, capital punishment is still practiced, but the country is striving to modernize its execution procedures. Traditionally, hanging was used. However, in recent years, Taiwan has increasingly adopted lethal injection to make the process more humane. Nevertheless, hanging is still employed in some cases. Belarus. Belarus is the only country in Europe where the death penalty remains an official punishment. The primary method of execution in Belarus is by firing squad. The procedures for carrying out executions are extremely secretive and details are not disclosed, although execution by firing squad is officially recognized as a legitimate means of carrying out a death sentence.